From gardening to animals to extreme renovations, welcome to Homesteading at College Hill Farm. Welcome back to College Hill Farm. Today we're making wine. Today we're going to make wine. Now I've been making wine for about 15 years, so I'm pretty practiced at it. So there's some things that you need to have an overall wine kit. Well, you need, there's several powders and things that you're going to need if you're going to make fruit wines. Now what I make is fruit wines, and I hope to move into grape wines with our own grapes this year. But for right now we make fruit wines. Well, what you're going to need a powder called pectic enzyme. It can also be in a liquid. You'll need a powder called yeast nutrient, wine tannin, acid blend. Now acid blend is a necessity for almost every wine. You don't have to have tannin with every wine, and you don't have to have yeast energizer. And then here is yeast nutrient again, and tannin again. Then we got yeast energizer and yeast nutrient. Now that would get you a good basic starting. I like to use, I've got measuring spoons. Now this is my favorite implement for doing wine because it allows me to mash the fruit at the same time that I stir it. It reaches the bottom of a 5-gallon bucket with no problem. Okay, it's stainless steel. It's not going to rust. It's not going to corrode. I wash it and it's good to go. It's one thing you do want to do. You want to make sure that your buckets are all washed. Your utensils are all washed and cleaned. Chlorine is a wine killer. Okay, it doesn't do good to if you've got chlorinated water. So you have to have unchlorinated water. Now I would like to say that we can use our water here, but we have chlorinated water. I've got a filter, but I just don't trust it when it comes to wine. I'm going to try batch at some point, but I'm not going to try that today. Today I'm going to make our favorite wine. We're going to make autumn olive wine. Now it's April the 8th. We would like to have this ready by July the 4th because by that time the wine that we're going to show you bottling after this will be used up and we'll be ready for this for the July the 4th holiday. So let's go ahead and get started and I'll show you what you need to do. Okay, now last night I got out our autumn olives, 13 pounds of them. So I'm going to take and put these in the bucket. Now what we do with our autumn olives, smells like autumn olives, what we do with them is we harvest them and then we freeze them to kill any wild yeast. And I have unfroze these. And a lot of times we call them choke cherries. They're not. It just makes for an interesting conversation. So I've got 13 pounds of autumn olives right out of the freezer. Now I take these 13 pounds of autumn olives and I'm going to use this and I'm going to mash them up some. You can't mash them all at once. I'll be doing this every day, 2 times a day. Mashing these autumn olives. Okay, see I even bent my thing, and that's all right. Alright, my hands have been washed really good. Alright, we've got them mashed up some. So what are we going to add? Well, with the autumn olives, what we've done, or what I've done over the years, is I have perfected recipes that I really like. So I'm going to pull them up on my phone here. And I'll put this recipe at the end too. I save the recipes on my phone. That way I don't have to worry about whether or not I've got them. I've also got them saved on the computers and different places. But all right. Now, for these autumn olives, I need 11 pounds of sugar. Well, I'll put the sugar in last, next to last. So I need 1 tablespoon of yeast nutrient. Yeast nutrient. Get a tablespoon. Kind of hard. Sorry. There we go. One tablespoon of yeast nutrient. Come on, phone, quit turning off. All right. Then I've got 3/4 of a teaspoon, 3/4 of a teaspoon of pectic enzyme. Well, this pectic enzyme's never been opened, so I guess this liquid looks like it's not doing good, so I'm going to open this for the first time. Then I'll have to seal that back some way. I'll probably just put it in a little jar. Alright, quit that. 3/4 of a teaspoon There's 1 teaspoon. Half a tablespoon. Half a teaspoon. Well, let's use that half teaspoon. 1 and about half again. Not an exact science. Okay. Next on my list is 5 teaspoons of acid blend. Well, with the acid blend, it gives us a different acid than what's in there. So, okay, there's 1 teaspoon. So, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There we go. 5 teaspoons of acid blend. Now, because of this, the choke cherries have a lot of acid in them. So it didn't need nearly as much acid blend as, say, something like peach or plum wine. Plum wine needs a lot of acid blend. You know, I'll go through this container. There's about, I don't know how much is there. There's probably a cup, and I'll use all of that this year. So, alright, now we've got all of the requireds in there. Now we'll add our sugar. Now it calls for 11 pounds of sugar. Now, in a SHTF situation, I don't know how you'd make wine. You'd have to come up with an alternative sugar source, maybe sorghum molasses or something like that. Now I need 11 pounds of sugar, so there's 4 pounds. 4 more pounds. Now I need to keep a pound of sugar out of this one. Well, I'm going to be just close. I'm not too worried about it. This, like I said, this is our favorite wine. It has a real astringent on the tongue feel. So I'm going to try and pour this out and leave just enough. I'd say there's about a pound left in there. Well, probably half a pound. I probably went over by about half a pound, but it'll be all right. Now, just so you know, if you look over in this bucket, you'll see that the bucket is half full. So it doesn't take as much water as what one might think, because the fruit and the sugar make it all the way half full. Now, I've never used a hygrometer to determine the sugar content. I just never saw a reason to do that. Now, all we do at this point is we use just spring water. And this is bought stuff. Getting water everywhere. Doggone it. Get this stuff over here where it's not going to get wet. Now, all of this water, everything is at room temperature. Okay, I've allowed the choke cherries to come up to room temperature. Now let me stir this a little bit before I keep adding water. Now that 1 gallon of water has pretty much got all of the sugar mixed up. So I'm going to add another gallon. Try not to spill it everywhere this time. Okay, there's 2 gallons in. And now it won't take a full gallon, because you need to leave enough room to stir good. All right. Just a little more. And that's it. I used about 2 2/3 gallons. Let me bring you over so you can see what you're looking at, what I'm looking at. Now here's what we're looking at. Just going to move this around a little bit. The autumn olives are all in that. Some are busted, some are not. I will eventually, all of them will bust. 99% of them. The sugar's completely dissolved. You can hear a little bit scraping around on the bottom, but the yeast will take care of the rest of that. Now it's time to get our yeast ready. That's all that's required. Now we'll get our yeast ready. Now I've got this all done, and it's time to put our yeast in. Now the yeast is going to take a little while to do its thing. So first off, let's talk about yeast for a minute. Now the yeast determines a lot about the type of wine. In our instance, I've always used Montrachet for all fruit wines. Now, they no longer call it Montrachet, they call it Premier Classic from Red Star. This is my favorite wine yeast. You can spread it over the top if you want to, but I find that activating it in a little bit of water helps. If I can get the package tore. Alright. Now I'm going to take 1/8 of a cup, put my yeast in there. Take that same water I was using, same room temperature water. Pour it in there. Now I'm going to stir this up a little bit, and I'm going to let it set for 5 or 6 minutes. So let me stir this a little. Kind of get down to clumps. And it smells yeasty. You can smell it. It smells like bread. Now I'm going to let that sit for about 10 minutes, and then I'll come back to you. Okay, it's been about 10 minutes. The yeast is ready. So I'm going to pour it around in the top here. And I'm also going to dip it so that it gets distributed all through. Okay, the yeast is in. And I'll give it a little stir to raise it up and down. Just a little bit. Set this stuff over. Now, the yeast is in. It smells really bread yeasty, but now that's not bread yeast. That's a total different animal. And now I just lay the lid on top. Now this is going to be this way for 7 days. Now this is going to remain in the primary fermenter, 5-gallon bucket, for 7 days. And then what will happen is each day of the 7, in the morning and in the evening, I'll come down. It doesn't matter about the time, okay? As long as you do it twice a day, spread out. I'll come down and stir it and mash more berries. And that'll happen twice a day. By the end of the 7th day, it'll all be mashed up. It'll all be fermented out and be ready to go in the secondary fermenter. And all you do for the secondary fermenter, if you watch the next video, I'm going to show you how to bottle wine. You'll see my secondary fermenter. Now I will transfer it by siphoning over into a secondary fermenter. Then I'll top the fermenter off with water. I use the 4-gallon water bottles. top it off with water, and put on an airlock. And in the airlock, I'll fill it with vodka or rum or bourbon or something like that, so that nothing gets down in there that could harm it. And then that'll do 30 days. And then I'll siphon off of that and put into another one. And that'll do another 30 days. And then anywhere from 20 to 30 days later, I'll siphon and put into bottles. And I'll show you the bottling video next. I'm gonna bottle plum wine so that you'll see how to do that. Now, I bottled this plum wine back in December, but I really didn't want to put on a bottling video until I did a winemaking video. Now, one other thing I will do, I'll cover this with a towel. And by covering it with a towel, it helps keep the fruit flies and stuff from finding it, because they would love to get in there. But if you cover it with a towel, they pretty much leave it alone. I've had a fruit fly or two. They wind up being pickled. Now, if you like this kind of homesteading stuff, be certain to subscribe and hit the bell. We upload our videos every Sunday. Sometimes there's a lot of videos and sometimes there's only one. But we upload videos every Sunday, and it's all about homesteading, self-sustainability, winemaking, all that kind of stuff. So be sure to subscribe, and it's time for me to get on to the next thing.